Hello everyone, welcome to the Union Pacific Railroad Evanston Subdivision, the N-scale inspired HO layout. My name is Daryl Kruse, owner and builder and operator of the layout, and your host for episode 23 of season 2022. In this episode we're going to see an extension of the Mainline. It's always quite exciting to get the Mainline going even further than the previous week, and we added 36 feet of additional Mainline. Was hoping to do close to 40 or over 40, but ran out of some roadbed, so we'll have to do that this week. So we'll hopefully have even more Mainline next week. But it's definitely good to see things taking place and seeing the Mainline extended. In fact, the Mainline has been extended all the way around the basement, and it's back to the staging yard. But since I have a second level, we're not completely all done. All right, here's where things stood last week. I just had the framing in for the Evanston Yard. I was just going to do simple box framing instead of L girder. Here's the second level, which I did a couple weeks ago. You can see the separation. This week, the main accomplishments were adding plywood on top of the framing. And the Evanston sub is going to be, the Evanston Yard is going to be pretty much all tracks. There will be some structures here and there. But mostly it's going to be track, and so it'll be quite flat. So I simply put the plywood on top of the framing. You can see here I'm joining two pieces together with some splicing and so forth. Had to cut some kind of unusual shapes out of the plywood to match. I basically just cut the main shape and then used my pencil to draw the outline, but everything fit together pretty well. I had a lot of screws here at the place where the two pieces of plywood come together, but I made sure that I used my planer to get it nice and smooth and had a good smooth transition from one to the other. But as you can see, it's pretty much all flat, and almost have it completed here. Still had a few sheets to put on. Also needed to extend the framing just a little bit. And all the way to the very end of the Evanston Yard and all the plywood on. So at this point we have everything completely on. Here's the transition between the two sheets. The L girder to the box framing. And you can see I had everything pretty much done all the way to this point. From here it's going to curve around and then go in through here between the furnace and the stairwell and start the second level. So the staging yard is right there. I could have just had one level and I'd be all the way around, but decided to go for the gold and have a second level. Next step then was to put track on and roadbed. Here's where it was before, and so this is all brand new trackage. This is the turnout that leads into the yard. So this is one end of the yard, and then you can kind of see where the yard throat begins. It's going to be some curved turnouts here. I'm trying to figure out if I should buy an additional jig from Fast Tracks for curved turnouts, or if I should just buy the Pico curved turnouts. I think I'm going to end up buying one more jig. It's a little bit less expensive. But you can see I have a arrival departure track. This is the first track of the yard. Then we have 5 classification tracks and then a bypass track to get from one end of the throat to the other. So that makes 7 tracks altogether. This is going to be the other end of the yard. This is where the main line is going to come into the yard at this point, and then the throat on this end will start. This will all be number 8 turnouts here. Won't have any curved turnouts on this end. You can kind of see how it goes from the main line and then into the yard. There will be drill tracks on both ends of the yard. Again, this will be number 8s here in the ladder format. So that'll be much more prototypical on this side. Now I did run out of road bed. As you can see, there was supposed to be a control point at the end, but it ran out of road bed, so I'm going to have to put the control point with some more turnouts this week. So I still have some more track to do in Evanston. Was supposed to have all the track done by this point, but I ran out of road bed, so didn't quite get that done. But I did get started on the wiring, so I think we'll be okay. This coming week, I'm supposed to get all the wiring done for the Evanston Yard area. So I'm going to have to be doing a little bit of both. I got started on the wiring this week since I had the time, but this coming week I'll be completing the wiring and then also completing the trackage. Now we have a log jam of trains here. Can't wait to start to try out the new main line. We have 2 trains on both ends, 2 trains up on Wasatch, and then 2 trains here at Emory control point. So we have a log jam in both directions. You can see here the length of the trains. They do all fit between control points, which is good. See, we have all red signals here, so both sides have red signals. So we're going to go ahead and see if we can't get clearance to go down the Wasatch grades for these 2 trains. Basically, we're going to have to take 1 train from this point to down to Emory, stop at the Emory control point, and then let another train come up. So this is how we ease out the log jam. So it's all red here. See if we can't get ourselves a clearance signal for one of these trains. Oh, it looks like we have a green. No, it looks like a yellow on the right-hand track. So we'll go ahead and get that train moving. This is a train headed up by 2 Tier 4 Gevos by Intermountain. I bought these without sound decoders. They come with ESU, but I didn't buy sound decoders with these, so I put in the Soundtrack Tsunami 2 decoders and also the Scale sound system speakers, so they sound pretty good. And they're not crossing over or anything. They're going to go ahead and go down on the original main line, which is usually used for downhill on the Wasatch grade. So we'll get a chance to see the entire train go by here. These are some scale trains, auto rack cars. This is a manifest trains. All these trains are manifest trains. A mixture of different kinds of rolling stock. This is a pretty long train, so it may take a while to get the whole thing through, but we'll go ahead and let the whole train go through so you can take a look at the entire train. These cryogenic reefers are by Atlas. I really like these cars. They are very nice looking, lots of great details, and I just like the cars, but I don't like the couplers that Atlas put on them. They're pretty bad. And then these are some Rapido well cars, and then these last three are by Cottle. And we do have a DP unit pushing from the rear. Actually, he's gliding down the hill. So they are on the original main line and heading downgrade, down the Wasatch grade to Emory, and we'll be going westward continually to eventually Ogden and the Riverdale Yard. See if we can catch up to the head end of the train. We are putting the dynamic brakes on here now, so you'll hear the engines go into idle and be able to hear the whine of the dynamic brakes as it tries to brake down the 1.7% decline down the Wasatch grade. As you know, there are two trains at Emory, so it cannot continue past Emory, so it's trying to apply major breakage right now to come to a stop, so that a uphill train can move up the Wasatch grade. And yes, we do have all reds here, so can't continue on from this point. All right, but we see if we can't get a train going in the opposite direction, since the train that just came down the hill left a spot up in Evanston for one of these trains to take. It looks like we have a diverging route for train 5068. See if we can't get it cranked up. These are a couple of Athearn SD70Ms together with Scale Trains Norfolk Southern Gevo. So we'll be able to see it cross over into the modern main line so that it can take the easier grade up the Wasatch Mountain. This is the only area of the layout that's scenic in any sense. Still have a lot of work to do on it, a lot of details to add. Ballast, of course, as well as some more static grass and detailed trees and so on, but at least it's some scenery. Got to get an idea of what the landscape is going to look like on the layout. Fun to listen to the EMDs working alongside the General Electric GEVO. Two definitely distinctive sounding engines. Right now it's crossing under the original main line at Curvo. It's coming around the end of the peninsula. This peninsula is 9 feet wide at this point, so it's a nice broad curve. And you do have two different elevations for the two main lines as it comes up towards Wasatch. You can hear the engines revving up as it fights the grade coming up to the summit. It looks like we have a flashing yellow on the diverging route, so we'll go ahead and cross over. There's a spot there vacated by the preceding train. The flat plywood here is going to be the UTLX tank repair facility. It's going to be a 3-track yard and a couple of spurs for loading tank cars, or repairing tank cars, I guess you could say, and some repair facilities. This is on the outskirts of Evanston. You can see the entire train coming in. And now we are coming to the new bench, the new main line. This is about as far as we were for the last number of weeks. We did the helix and all kinds of stuff. So it's been a long time since we've, probably about 5 weeks, since we've been able to extend the main line. So now we are coming on to a brand new main line coming into Evanston and the Evanston Yard. You can see the turnout there that's leading into the Evanston Yard from the west end of the yard. These two curves are 54 and 56 inches in diameter, so they're pretty broad. Get a chance to see how trains look going not only through Evanston but going underneath the second level. We do have just a tiny bit of the second level completed here. So this is what it will look like with the second level. And it is kind of in the shadow here, so I definitely will have to add some lights under this. And I am a little bit lower than eye level. But I think it looks pretty good. At eye level, you can still see the train, but it is in the shadow at this point on the outer main line. There you can see the helix in the background there. And we come to the end of the new main line. This next week coming up, I'll be wiring and completing the control point. I stopped right here because I ran out of road bed. And so I'm going to be getting that this week and then adding that in the control point and then doing the rest of the wiring. And we still got to get 2 more trains moving on the main line. This one is going to cross over to the original main line. I think we had a yellow there. I didn't realize this until I was filming, but the trains going downhill are the ones that have the distributed power, and the trains coming uphill are the ones that don't have distributed power. But the Evanston sub is upgrade and downgrade throughout the entire sub, so they need the distributed power going eastbound or westbound. But the major grade is the Wasatch grade from Echo up to the Wasatch Summit. So we'll get a chance to see the entire train here. Looking for some loads for those flat cars. And see if we can get to the head end of the train real quick. We're going across Kerrville on the original main line. And again, we'll be turning on the dynamic brakes, the slower descent coming down. We are able to continue past Emory. We don't need to come to a complete stop this time, since one track was vacated. All right, this train here is the last train to get moving on. So we've had 3 trains move forward towards their destinations. And we have just this last one to go up the Wasatch grade and see if we can't get a signal for it to continue eastbound towards the Wasatch Summit and Evanston Yard. All right, looks like we have a green signal. See if we can't get things pumped up and moving. So we have the last of the 4 trains, last of the 4 trains to continue its trip across the Evanston sub. This train is headed up by Scale Trains Tier 4 GEVO, Athearn SD70, and then a PRLX SD70 Mac, also by Athearn. Coming up on Kerrville now. Locomotives are revving their engines as it approaches the steepest part of the climb. They're even revving the engines a little bit more yet, trying to reach the summit. Looks like we have a green to get through Evanston. Throughout this video, trains are running about 20 scale miles per hour, maybe a little bit below that, but I don't think we've ever gone over 20 scale miles an hour. Now we're on the outskirts of Evanston, coming up to the Evanston Yard, which will begin at this turnout that can take trains into the yard. During the operating session, there will be 2 trains terminating each day at Evanston. So they'll come into Evanston Yard, into the arrival track, and then its cars will be broken down and put into the classification tracks. So 2 trains will terminate here, and then also 2 trains will originate at Evanston in both directions. So trains will be built from the cars in the classification yard, and then trains will depart. The Evanston Yard will also contain a car shop, as well as a engine fueling and sanding facility. Now, as we go under the second level, you can see this track is not in the shadows at all. So it is clearly visible all the way through. I really don't think the second level is going to distract at all. That's the closest. It's 10.5 inches at the closest, or just over 10 inches, I should say. But then as the second level goes around the bend, it'll get more of a separation up to about 12 inches eventually, and then the rest of the way it's going to be 16 to 18 inch separation. So should be pretty good as we come to the end of the run. 4 trains made it through the little log jam there, and we're at the end of the run. More work this coming week. Look forward to next week's update. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day, everybody. Take care.